And we are live. Hello and welcome to Thursday evening and Off the Leash, Neptune's now once weekly talk show where we chat with members of the arts community, keep in touch with people. It's Neptune's way of sort of staying in touch and sharing a smile on a Thursday night. Up until a week or so ago, we were 4 nights a week, nearly killed me. And now we are 1 night a week, and it feels so good. We have guests lined up for the next couple of weeks. I'll share some of that news at the end of the show tonight. We don't just talk to theater people here on Off the Leash. There is a web series called I Hear You, and I'm very thrilled that tonight 4 of the creators of that show, which I have watched and I'll tell you more about in a second, are joining us right now. So please welcome to the studio, if I can hit the right buttons, it's been a week, Koumbie, Chelsea Innes, Siri Bright, and Amy Trefry. There we are. Look at you all. It's good to see you.
Hey there.
Thanks for being here. Thanks for being here. How are you all doing? Are you holding up okay?
Yeah, as well as you can in quarantine.
Yeah. Absolutely. I told you just before we came on, but I've watched the entire series, and I urge people watching our show to seek it out. We'll make sure that the link is shared on our social media and in the chat section of our show tonight. It really is quite beautifully shot and quite intensely interesting and dynamic. It's a medical drama, but it's a little different. It's not the kind of medical drama that we're so used to seeing on TV. Which one of you wants to give us we didn't plan this, which one of you wants to give me the why is it so different from Grey's Anatomy kind of spiel? And so let's start with you, Amy. What is I Hear You all about?
It's a non-conforming feminist medical drama is what I would say. So non-conforming in the sense that you're right, it's not like Grey's Anatomy. We are not doing sort of a procedural, drama that focuses on the slamming doors and the rushing gurneys and the crises that happen in emergency rooms. We're looking at what happens in the lives of people who are visiting, largely our frontline workers, which is our family doctors. And it is looking specifically at sexual health and sexual health for gender oppressed people, which we are talking about women in the most inclusive way we can use that term, and non-binary folks. And so that's what the show looks at. And it tries to look at from both sides of the gurney still, like some medical shows do, that we're trying to also look at the frustrations and the challenges that doctors are having, as well as the challenges that patients are having.
Right. Siri, how did it all come about? I mean, where did this journey begin for the show and for you connected to it?
Well, I mean, for me, Amy and I have been friends since university, and in a lot of ways, our dynamic as friends, because I haven't actually met Koumbie and Chelsea yet in person. So really, this is like for me, is something that Amy and I, it goes back as long as a friendship. And for me, I mean, I've been on a bit of a journey myself. I'm a mother. I have a young son, and I feel like I've taken quite a deep dive into what it means to be a woman. Especially over the last 3-4 years, becoming a mother. And it's really like, I feel like for me, this series has given me an opportunity to dive a lot deeper into my own experience as a woman, and really share the voices of women that are often unheard. I feel like for me, some of my favorite episodes were those where women were either have had huge sexual abuse issues and go into a hospital, and so often those kinds of cases get overlooked because those kinds of experiences are so common for women to experience. And so for me, it's a lot about bringing in older traditions around helping women especially know themselves in different ways and have those voices that are often unheard shared. So I think that was the biggest thing for me.
What was the, I guess, what was the process like then to actually develop the show? So Siri and Amy, did you develop the concept for the show initially and then bring on the rest of your team, or was it more of a communal effort? How did that work? Is that right?
More communal, yeah, more communal. It started with Koumbie and I that we really like. Koumbie, tell me if I'm now sharing too much personal stuff, but we didn't actually know each other that well, and we went out for coffee. We were at a Starbucks. I remember sitting in a Starbucks, and we were basically sharing some personal experiences that we were having together, and both of us.
Starbucks.
Yeah.
I was just, sorry, stranger, but this is what's going on.
Yeah, and it was just this like sharing opportunity, and I think we both realized that this was conversations we were having. I mean, I'd had conversations with Siri about this. I'd worked with Chelsea before and had honest conversations where there was this sense of there's something more to this that can be said and needs to be said, that is being held back because of taboos in society and being had in these very private conversations. And can we create something in a more public realm that allows people the opportunity to talk, or at least to see somebody else talk about this? Was, I think, where it started. Like, it started quite personally, and then developed into this concept of a medical drama of how could we give life to the stories that we are experiencing ourselves, and many people that we know are experiencing in some way. And then we had a wonderful opportunity through Telefilm and their Talent to Watch program, to be able to actually make something from that content.
All right, before we go any further, let's take a little peek. I think I've got the trailer here. Let's take a little peek at it, and then Chelsea, I'm going to come to you and find out about what they gave you to work with, you and Koumbie as directors here. So hold on, let's take a look.
I get that you're doing the connect with the whole patient thing, and I'm sure you're checking off all the boxes of being a great doctor. All I need to know is how to make my vagina stop hurting.
I think doctors are all the same.
I have recently had unprotected sex with a new partner.
You're not gonna give her birth control?
No, not if she doesn't want it.
No, it's fine. I really don't want to take it. You are not old enough to make this decision.
I need you to listen to me.
This is solely my decision to make. I believe in bodily autonomy, and so your personal opinion should not affect my ability to access care.
It's just a routine check, nothing to be afraid of.
I think I need a minute. Please. I wanted this baby so badly. And now, every time I look at my son, I want to run away.
I have these women who come in and see me every day, and they need more.
For all the joys I've missed, pointless growing fast, my day comes at last, and love is really on. Alright, I'm not John Lennon, but I dream in Beatles. Little honey for your head at night, kinda need the way it feels. Like hopeless days, my hopeless friends. I'm done with.
I love that song as well. I've literally heard it 10 times in the last 24 hours, and it always kicks in. And every single time at the end of every episode, I'm like, oh yeah, here we go.
Yeah.
You should plug them. They're a local band. It's Hillsburn, and they are a Halifax-based band, and they are amazing. And they were so generous with letting us use their music and super supportive of the show. So a massive shout out to Hillsburn.
Fantastic. Chelsea, tell me a little bit about first how you came to be involved. Did these people approach you, or what happened?
Yeah, what happened? How did I get here? So yeah, Amy contacted me, and at that point, I think all three of you, Koumbie, Amy, and Siri, were like well into pre-production, and yeah, I got an email, and I mean, joining this project was like a no-brainer. But I definitely what pushes me in my career is telling stories from from marginalized communities, BIPOC and queer identities, and the show is definitely in line with that. And to work with this team to go back to Halifax. I mean, I lived in Halifax for 7, almost 8 years. I live in Toronto now, but any chance I get, I'll go back. So, I mean, when Amy kind of roped me in, I was like, I am willingly participating. I am on board, especially with the even the content, sexual health. It's like it's underrepresented as a concept. So I was really, really jazzed to be a part of it.
Awesome. So Koumbie, so now I know when I see you in Starbucks, you're probably cooking up some kind of project. I always just go to Starbucks for a coffee and a quiet moment, but apparently it is the place where deals get made and ideas come to fruition. So,
in a Starbucks crying in the corner.
Awesome. So, what was the process then from once you'd had that Starbucks coffee chat and sort of started to sort of generate this idea for the show? Where did you go and how did you make it come to fruition? Was it funding based, or you were on a watch list? Explain what that watch list thing is.
So Telefilm has a sort of new program. It used to be the micro budget, but now it's the Talent to Watch, where they fund these here's my face, these small projects, these micro budgets essentially, and they had this web series stream. And I think actually it was when we were talking at the Starbucks, we were like, oh snap, there's this funding, and then we were like, oh wow, it's due in, I want to say 2 weeks. Amy, was it 2 weeks?
Yeah.
It was some completely insane amount of time, and my partner Taylor had been working on his pitch for this for like months ahead of time, and we were like, and we pulled a lot of late nights, and I actually don't know how Amy did it, because I remember being like, I think I did a lot actually during the process. And what else happened? So we kind of threw that together in what was a crazy 2 weeks, and then waited. I think I was in Morocco when we found out that we had somehow gotten the funding, and like Taylor found out and was messaging me on Facebook because he had gotten the funding, and he was like, check your email. It was really terrible in our like Moroccan hotel. I was like, it's not coming through. I don't know. Yeah, flash forward, we got the funding. My dining room had a wall of all of the horrible things that could happen to a woman's body, which was a really fun dinner conversation for a few weeks. And then I actually kind of stepped away, and Amy had all of these conversations with all of these women across the country, I believe, and she wrote the script.
Right. So thank you. And I can just imagine a sticky note with a different medical issue on it.
Yeah, it was just like racism.
Yeah, right.
The worst sticky notes.
Really fun.
Did you keep them? Do we still have the sticky notes?
I took many pictures. I was very fond of the wall.
Yeah. So I guess now we should draw some attention to the fact that Amy, you sort of, you're integral in the creation of this, but then you wrote it, and then you're in it too.
Yeah.
So you obviously like to have nice, relaxing evenings. There's a picture of you actually in the show. Tell us about your character, Dr. Alyssa Hart. Is she a new doctor?
Yeah, so she's a newly graduated resident who's in her first year of practice. And I wanted to represent that because there is this idea, I think, that once you leave residency, you sort of are in this world of autonomy as a physician, that you can kind of run your own practice and do what you want, but you're still governed by the laws of the medical community, which it's a very old, very red tape institution that was built by men for men. And is still very exclusionary in a lot of ways. And medical school, so part of this is my partner in real life is a physician. And I have been with him during the entire medical school and residency process. And watching somebody go through that is unreal, to be honest. I think it's such a, I don't know, all-encompassing sort of experience to go through and to watch somebody go through. And I wanted to have a character that was coming out of that and to show how burnt out our doctors when they start are. These are not people who are coming in with like the vitality and the enthusiasm that they were in first year med school. These are people who have been through the ringer and are realizing that the ideals and the vision that they had for their career might not actually happen. And that they're going to come up against challenges that over their however many years of med school and residency have sort of ground them down. And so that's who Dr. Hart is. She's starting off not in a place of balance and sort of wellness, and sort of the irony of the fact that our medical system is being run by people who are burnt out and exhausted a lot of the time. And it's not all of them, of course, but that is a very real factor. And so she's somebody who's really struggling. She's struggling with this push between Western medicine that she's been trained in and the idea of Eastern or alternative and holistic medicine, which she really believes in, and wanting to have an integrative practice and the sort of resistance that she gets from some of her colleagues.
Thank you, Chelsea. With the scripts that Amy wrote, and I guess Koumbie too, both of you, were the scripts really speaking to you from a flavor and style point of view? It's got a very distinct look and feel, a very uniform, and I don't mean that in a negative way. I mean, you could almost watch. Well, I did watch it back to back, but so it almost felt like one big connected story. But even the music all the way through has a certain point where sometimes it kicks in. It's very noticeable and beautifully done. So how much of the style of the piece were you getting from Amy's scripts, or was that you worked on collectively together?
Yeah, this was a huge collaboration between the people you see here. And yeah, I think what stuck out for me the most would have been just the stories of each individual character. And I just there was a like all the characters, I just immediately like really identified with them. And in my own, I don't have all the ailments that they had, but there was some vulnerable, some way I could connect with all of them. And so I tried to do something where each episode was individual to each character to do them justice, but to have a unifying idea across the whole series. In terms of score, and the Lucas Pierce and he brought on a composer, and they did a really great job in post in terms of the sound design and all that. My focus was making sure that when we were shooting, that I was doing these characters justice, so that we could do the best we could with in post, slap it all together.
Which was hard, if I can say. It was really a really difficult thing to do because a lot of the stories. So Siri and I worked for I feel like it was like 4 or 6 months on the scripts, and there was all these stories that we'd collected from people across Canada, and what we put into the scripts was not actually the real stories that we got. And a lot of the time it was because I didn't think people would believe me if I told them what was actually happening. And so to hand that over to Chelsea and Koumbie as directors and say, these are voices that need to be heard, and yet I can't even write them, not only because I'm limited as a new writer, but I'm also limited in what I think people will receive and like be open to. And so I feel like part of what was so amazing to watch Chelsea and Koumbie do was take what Siri and I had tried to create in these scripts and then bring it forward in a way that was accessible and, I don't want to say palatable, but like that people would receive on a topic that's so vulnerable and so difficult to talk about and sit with and watch.
And Siri, were you, did the two of you come together physically? Did you spend time together working on these, or was it all done digitally and via shared documents and Zoom meetings? Much like a pandemic.
We did a lot of phone calls. Yeah, because I live out on Vancouver Island. And so Amy came a few times to come and visit. So we did have a little bit of in-person time, but most of it was passing documents back and forth, rewriting and rereading scripts. And, in a lot of ways too, like so much of these stories, kind of like what Chelsea was saying, we, both Amy and I, Chelsea mentioned as well, like we identify with all of them. And And I think for me, one of the biggest interests for me was like how, like where we're at in just as a species right now, when we like look at medicine, like especially allopathic medicine, how do we actually take this piece of art that we've created and weave together the story of allopathic medicine and then what's sort of now becoming more and more popular in the more sort of alternative modalities, and trying to weave a story together that both educates women, so as to make women also feel not so alone in some of these stories because they are relatable. But then at the same time to show how hard it is to weave alternative modalities into an allopathic model. And I think that the writing for that was, I mean, for me, I really wanted to push more of the alternative modalities because that's some of the things that I'm really interested in. But like Amy said, it's tricky because it has to also be right timing and digestible for an audience as well. And so, yeah, it was fun writing.
So you have a core cast in the show of, let me just do a quick count, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4 or 5. Is that right? So recurring characters. A lot of the institutionalized medical male patriarchy is kind of represented by one man, a man that I know well. He's a friend of mine. And I've never seen him being quite such a bastard before. David Christophel, you mean man. I mean, representative of so many, I know. So was that the goal there, was to basically have him as the counterpoint to your character, Amy, and have him represent? Because I'm assuming that, making a web series, you probably had a budget, and you had to basically decide, it's going to be represented by these people. Is that fair to say? And David did a great job. So
yeah, we had a very small budget. And yeah, David was, I mean, I think actually, I feel like Koumbie, if you talked about the episode so Koumbie also acted in the show.
Yes.
And her character's interaction with David's character, Dr. Chapman, I feel like is really exemplary of what I was saying before, that the stories that we used as inspiration for this were not used in a direct translation, that the character Koumbie portrayed, what actually happened to that person was significantly more horrific than what we wrote. And so even though Dr. Chapman seems like this really awful character, in reality, he kind of is just your average old guard, cisgender male, white doctor. He's not trying to hurt anybody. He's not trying to do harm. He's not a bad doctor in a lot of ways, but he is so misinformed and lacking education that is a product of the institution he's working in.
So his education ended 30, 40 years previously, and he hasn't kept up. Wow. Well, it's that episode. I don't want to give anything away because I want people to go away and watch it and have the build of the relationships for the regular characters. So you also have Jacob Sampson playing your life partner in the show. I mean, if you're going to get someone to play your life partner, get Jacob Sampson. That's what I say. And he does an amazing job as well, of course. What else would we expect? Oh, there we go. Oh wait, there's one as well. Look at that. He's just so listening to you right there.
Very yogic. He's very yogic there. Yeah.
Yeah, because he plays his character used to be in medicine and is now a yoga teacher. And I don't think it's giving it too much away to say that that Alyssa is having trouble at certain points in the show with his chosen career now. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm trying to remember the show is, but that's another Neptune connection because we so badly wanted Jacob, and we were like, it has to be him. Like he was doing
Color purple?
Oh, probably, yeah.
And he had a mustache. He had the mustache.
Yes.
He had to get rid of it for the
It's we often actually encounter that at the theater, you know, because we are blessed by having some amazing performers with us, where suddenly the film and TV industry helicopters in with their fancy TV talk and want actors to leave. We had the same thing happen with Shakespeare in Love with Ally McDonald, and he got a big Tom Fitzgerald movie, and he had a beard to play Shakespeare, and he shaved that beard off of that movie like that. I'm teasing him now because it was all sorted out. But yeah, so I understand. So although Jacob has done so many shows at Neptune in the last little while, it could have been one of a whole bunch of shows. But that's so that was I guess that was a bit of a surprise to me. I read a little bit about the show before I watched it, and didn't really know that we were going to get a little like an arc of your personal life as well, the trials of this relationship. Was that something that came in after you'd started with the show, or was it always there from the beginning that you wanted to see Alyssa's personal life, you know, to sort of battle against? Who wants to take that one? Yeah, go.
I like I said, I didn't write the episodes, but originally we were actually looking at it being like an anthology. So each episode was going to be completely separate from each other. And the more research we did into web series, the more we realized what a huge challenge it is to get people to come back for the next episode. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's when the spark of what could be like a through line through the whole series came. And then
yeah. And then I feel like as we were working, I think actually it was, I think it was Siri challenged me a lot to write in this personal struggle that this person was having, and to have some sort of comparison between the patient and the doctor. And like Koumbie said, we looked at other shows that didn't have that through line, and found that even if they were really compelling single episodes, it was hard to come back because you didn't have an attachment to somebody. And at no point, and I think all of us talked quite a bit about this through the whole process, were we trying to vilify or condemn the medical system. It was super important, you know, that we recognized that there was challenges being experienced by everyone, both in their personal lives and within the walls of the clinic. And I feel like seeing Dr. Hart and Grayson having left the medical community because it was not what he wanted, gave some balance to, you know, these really like tragic stories that are unfolding.
Amy's totally right, but I do like, we want to be super careful about it too, because obviously we're in the middle of a global pandemic, and like, what a time to be critiquing our incredible frontline workers. But I do want to be specific. Like, I have some serious gripes with the medical system, and like, as I'm not trying to vilify, I seriously, like, I want to put the feet to the fire, because there's some bullshit, and I'm like still up against it now. It started because we're feeling up against it, and like it just continues. So we're not trying to vilify. We understand that there's both sides, but like, you know.
Yeah, and the structure of how it's how we shot it and everything, and how it's been written is like, you're highlighting the issues, because that's the point. We're this is what needs to be talked about, that these gaps are happening. But also the structure allows us to also see these doctors like humans. They're humans. They have problems. They have fights with their boyfriends when they go home.
Yeah. I mean, and that's I think I really took that away with me, because Amy, your character is struggling at home a little, struggling because she's taking the work home with her. And then she has these breakthroughs with patients, or maybe she's just doing her job and the patient has the breakthrough, or we as the audience have the breakthrough because without anybody saying it, we go, oh, I've seen that, or oh, I've experienced that, or I recognize that happens. And it may not just be in the medical industry, to be honest, but so one thing I really enjoyed, and you talked about your desire to have people to come back, to hook them to come back, was at the end of every episode, and I don't think I'm giving anything away. You give us a little flash of the character for the next episode. It took me 2 episodes to realize what I was seeing. I was like, oh, who's that? Oh, it's done. and then immediately the second time I was like, oh, I get it. And now I really want to know what that person's story is, because we were getting a flash of their life, and so we were being drawn to the next episode. Was that something that was that added in post? I mean, because I was looking at it going, so did you shoot everything back to back all in one go? How did the scheduling of that work? I'm a producer. I want to know.
Chelsea, would you like to talk about scheduling?
Schedule was very fun. We had a lot of very jam-packed days, and by no means was it shot chronologically. We shot based on location. We shot most of our time was spent in the hospital at the IWK, and then we went and bounced around people's homes in Halifax. Amy's home being one location. Just getting everyone's little stories here and there, and scheduling that was difficult, but we had a great AD, Kayla Flynn. She did an amazing job, and we got our days in. And some days, we had it was a blast. I'm gonna say the shoot was a blast, and it was difficult, but we make it happen. That's the industry we've chosen. This is the line of work we're in. It's just part of it.
Absolutely. One question I want to ask you, and I'm going to try and ask this in a way that doesn't sow a seed for people that are about to watch it. Let me see if I can do this. There is a character played by Peter Sardi. Just tell me, is he okay? I really want a season 2.
Yep, I know.
Right? Because is he got a thing for Alyssa? There was a thing. There's a thing, right, Amy?
Such a good question. Such a good question.
That's why they pay me no bucks at all.
Just say that Peter Sardi is a delight to work with. Just gonna throw that
He was so fantastic.
Yeah, and just the whole cast. I mean, we had an amazing cast to work with.
Yeah. And a lot of new, a lot of fairly new talent that we were asking them to put themselves into roles that were so vulnerable, and that involved all this intimacy. And there's a great example of Sarah and Rena, and really, really challenging characters with really challenging content. And the cast every day stepped up over what was a really fast-paced short shoot. I think we had 15 days. We shot it in.
Is it 2 weeks?
Yeah. 12 days, something like that. Anyways, it was a lot. It was intense. Yeah, it was really intense. Our cast and crew were phenomenal.
Yeah. So it's 10 episodes. They range in length, and I didn't actually look at this, but it feels like they range in length from about 6 minutes to 10 minutes. Is that fair to say?
Yep.
I do have to ask the question, because you have left us with a bit of a, despite your desire and your plan to not give us a bit of drama. I mean, that doesn't sound right. To not give us that Grey's Anatomy cliffhanger. You gave us a cliffhanger, which I wasn't expecting. I'm not going to say what it is, but I want to know what happens.
Mm-hmm.
So am I going to find out what happens? You need to tell me. When can I see season 2? Telefilm? NFB?
Yes, thank you. Yeah, CMF. Anybody who wants to fund a season 2, we are here, willing, waiting, ready to go at any time.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's primed and ready to go. But is that the hope? Is joking aside, is there a hope for a season 2?
I basically walked, I think, out of post-production the last day and felt like there was I was tired and I was really glad that it was over, and I immediately wanted to do it again and do it better and to tell more stories. Koumbie sort of jokes about this wall of sticky notes of problems, but that was what we had. And I did close to 100 interviews with people across Canada, and I will tell you that we did not get even a fraction of enough of the stories that are out there that need to be told. And I feel like particularly right now, I'm hearing more and more and more of them all the time. So yeah, if somebody, would let us do it again and do it better and do more of them. And there's an honesty that I wish I was experienced enough as a writer to put in that kills me sometimes, that I couldn't get in, that I didn't feel like I got in as a performer as well. I mean, I don't know if performers ever feel like it's good enough. I'm waiting for that day, but yeah, if I could, convince somebody to let us do more of these, I would, because I think it's a conversation that still needs to be had, and particularly by the fact that there aren't really any other shows talking about this content out there. There really aren't. There's books, there's podcasts, yes, but there are not movies and TV shows, and it is a way to get into somebody's home and into their personal space and impact them. And I think that there's such an opportunity to change things. I mean, I appreciate, Koumbie, that you called me out on sort of, I am always dancing around the not insulting and hurting anybody's, feelings and saying the right thing. But I want change. We made this show because we want to see change. And this is a cry for it. And there's a lot more voices that need to be raised in that cry.
So where can people watch it now? Is it available on more than one platform? Or I know you've got a website, which we'll make sure the link is in the comment section as soon as we go off air, if it's not there already. But what is the website address, just so people know?
It is IHearYouSeries.com.
IHearYouSeries.com.
Yeah.
And that takes you to a webpage, which is actually incredibly well built and informative. Who made the website?
Emily Dewar.
I knew that. I wanted you to say it. It's a great website, Emily, if you're watching, because not only is it, and I'm sure you've all worked to jam pack it, not only with the show. There's a blog, there's information, there's explanation, there's comment, there's you can really get in there, right? Which is great, and there's lots of great pictures of the show, so that's a great resource. Is that the main? I guess that's really the main place to get to see it and to sort of delve into the content, is that website, right?
That, or a YouTube channel, or it's also, we've got Facebook and Instagram, and I think all of the episodes are linked on those as well. But the website's definitely a good starting place. And like you said, it's got the blog. It also has a podcast, which was done by Bridie McLean. That was fantastic. She does the Turn Me On and Sick Boy podcast with her partner, Jeremy Saunders. And she did a fantastic job of the podcast as well. So those are all on the website.
Really, I mean, it's the perfect place to go when now, after 3 or 4 months of being in a pandemic, you've completely emptied Netflix.
That's right. We're here.
There's absolutely nothing left, but also it's great for its own reasons. I really want to thank all 4 of you for joining me this evening and chatting about your show. Is there anything that you want to tell my audience, our audience, that I've neglected to ask you about the show, that you're going to kick me afterwards for not mentioning? Because I want to make sure that the message gets out there to watch the show.
Might be a little heavy. I don't know. But just because of where we are in the world, and there are so many discussions happening around Black Lives Matter, I saw a quote recently that I just haven't been able to get out of my head. But it said, "What cops are doing to Black men, doctors are doing to Black women." And so for all the people that are out there wanting to do more, wanting to learn more, I just put that out there because the numbers are really staggering, and they're pretty awful. So.
Okay. Thank you.
I wanted to shout out to our crew and just the Halifax community, the film community in general. Like, you need me, I will hop. Well, I mean, as soon as I can. Out there and rejoin you guys in whatever you want to make. You have such a special community in Halifax. I just wanted to say that, it's one of a kind.
Yeah, we really do. And I understand that film production might be kicking off very soon. Fingers crossed for Shelley Thompson and her project, which may be the first out of the gate. Yeah. I understand that might be cast now. I don't know whether I'm speaking out of turn, but I'm hearing rumors. So maybe I can get some of that crew onto our show to talk about that at some point over the summer. If you don't mind just staying exactly where you are while I just thank the audience for watching, but thank you again for being here, the four of you. It was really lovely to see you and to meet two of you for the first time. So hang tight. So folks, thanks for watching tonight's episode of Off the Leash. We are every Thursday. Next week, we are joined by Raisa Lalani, who is the artistic director of the Prismatic Arts Festival. Prismatic and Neptune had partnered on a couple of shows for the upcoming season. And so we are now working on how we're going to move forward during these pandemic times. So we'll chat with Raisa about that and everything else that she and the company have been doing over the last little while. And following that, the following week, John Dinning, a set designer extraordinaire, is going to join us to talk about his process in creating some of the amazing sets that we have had at Neptune Theatre. I also just want to take a brief moment to once again thank Support for Culture, Nova Scotia Gaming, for their support of this project and so many projects in the city. So thanks again for being here, everyone, and I will see you next Thursday. All right, take care.